Listen to CBS Sports Radio every weekend for nonstop sports updates and breaking news, including analysis of the hottest topics in sports.
CBS Sports Radio. CBS Sports Radio.
Listen live every weekend on air or online at CBSSportsRadio.com.
I'm Larry Richard.
And I'm John Shumway. Good morning.
Well, it's time to talk Tuesdays with our in-studio guest today. It's John Schalcosky, who is the founder of the odd, mysterious, and fascinating history of Pittsburgh. John, welcome.
Hey, good morning. Thanks for having me.
You're a Ross native.
That's correct.
So how does a guy like you get interested in the odd and mysterious things of our city?
Pure curiosity, to tell you the truth. I have no background, formal education in history. It's just a matter of curiosity, of love of my hometown, and wanted to explore and learn everything I possibly can and share with others.
All right, so let's start with something completely off the wall. You say that there is some evidence that at one point people around here were 9 feet tall.
That is correct.
Okay, tell us about that.
Well, it has to do a little bit with the origin of the three rivers. You had the Monongahela, which is the river of many falling banks. That's what that means. The Ohio, which is an old Indian term for a river of blood, believe it or not.
Really?
Oh, good.
Yeah. And the Allegheny, or the Allegheny as we know it today. The early Delaware people, the Lenni Lenape, who were the early tribes that inhabited downtown Pittsburgh, claimed that there was these tall 9-foot giants that inhabited the point, and they called these people the Allegaways.
And that's why it's the Allegheny River.
That's right.
Well, did the Lenni Lenapes ever see these 9-foot people, or was it lore?
Apparently they did, and they actually chased them out, and they fled towards West Virginia and Ohio.
That explains it.
Exactly.
That's where Bigfoot went.
Now, what's really interesting is the Carnegie Museum, the director in 1897 was digging in a cave in Verona and claimed to have actually found the bones of 9-foot-tall giants. It's in the papers.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
So how long you been doing this?
I started the site in September, just of last year, and it's so far built up a following of over 30 million people have come visit the site.
30 million?
And growing.
I'm on his Facebook page is just Facebook /Odd Pittsburgh, and I'm just you're fascinated by it, especially if you're a native, because most of this stuff you've never heard of before. Like let's see, May 7th was the 103rd anniversary of the visit of Abdul Baha, and this guy was in prison 40 years, and he set out on a journey that would bring him all over the world, including to Pittsburgh, to unite the world's religions and create peace.
That's right.
I never heard of him before.
Neither have I until last week. And that's one of the interesting things about this Facebook page is that I'll constantly search for current events or events that have occurred in Pittsburgh's past and bring them to light again about someone that most people would not know of. For example, the man you just mentioned. And really dig into the story, try to find any kind of photos and newspaper articles about his actual visit to Pittsburgh. And I've done this many times with other people, like Albert Einstein, when he came here to visit Pittsburgh, find the actual photos. Oh, yes. He gave a lecture at the Carnegie Music Hall.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Now, you collect stuff off of eBay and various places. You have for those of you who have seen Avengers, The Age of Ultron, you actually have an Avengers comic book that deals with Pittsburgh?
That's correct. It's called Peril in Pittsburgh. And believe it or not, there's many comics that have taken place in Pittsburgh, including a whole issue of Spider-Man, and a whole issue of Captain Marvel, the 1940s, the Avengers. And one of my favorite stories is the creation of Buck Rogers. He apparently fell asleep in a cave here in western Pennsylvania, and when he woke up, it was the year 2500 something, and they here in Pittsburgh. The whole story takes place.
Really?
Buck Rogers in Pittsburgh. The very first ever strip that appeared in the newspaper was from Pittsburgh for Buck Rogers.
When they did the Lewis and Clark expedition, the anniversary several years ago, I think it was, 225 years at the time. Mm-hmm. There was just little facts. Most people didn't know that they launched that whole expedition from here.
Correct.
And they had a guy build their keel boat, and they couldn't find him because the guy was on a 2-day drunken bender.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so the Lewis and Clark expedition was delayed out of Pittsburgh because the boatmaker was drunk.
Yeah. In fact, there's early accounts when you look into some of these early stories about people visiting Pittsburgh. You'll find out that Pittsburgh was a town that was basically like a bar town. Over hundreds of bars and churches. That's all that existed in Pittsburgh in the early days.
And the mills.
In the mills.
Well, and it comes, they have a beware sign from 1845 that says, whereas it has become a habit with idle and unruly boys and men to congregate upon the canal and footbridges of the city, basically talking about them disturbing the peaceful patrons of the city.
Especially the females, it says. And did you notice the last part of that, Larry, where they set up the fine for violation of this rule? It's a minimum of $1 not to exceed $5 per violation. Now, when you're talking about 18, whatever that was, $1 was a lot of money.
1845.
Yeah, that's probably close to $100 today.
I'd say it was a rough town for a long time.
Yeah, well, think about the fact that there was no electricity, and if you ventured out at night on some kind of covered bridge, the chances that you'd meet some shady character on the side would be pretty strong.
And the fact they mentioned canals. We used to have canals all over the place here.
Yeah, in fact, the major thoroughfare right in the middle of downtown was the Pennsylvania Canal.
People forget about that. They moved in on the north side.
Mm-hmm. In fact, when they started building U.S. Steel Building, they discovered the remnants of the tunnel for the Pennsylvania Canal.
That's wild. We got a lot more coming up. The founder of Odd, Mysterious, and Fascinating History of Pittsburgh, John Schalcosky, in studio, is going to stick around with us.
Every morning, Pittsburgh wakes up with Larry Richert and John Shumway. KDKA.
You're listening to the voice of Pittsburgh. This is KDKA. I'm Larry Richert.
And I'm John Shumway. Good morning. Yeah, it's 7:08 Daylight Savings Time, which started in Pittsburgh.
You're kidding. We have a gentleman with us, the founder of the Odd, Mysterious, and Fascinating History of Pittsburgh, John Schalcosky from Ross originally. And John's got 30 million views on his Facebook page that he started when? In September?
September.
That's ridiculous.
So why did they start Daylight Savings Time in Pittsburgh?
The man who started it all was named Robert Garland, and he proposed the idea for daylight saving time mainly to help farmers in the middle of the country who were losing daylight. But he proposed that here in Pittsburgh and moved up the ladder until it became a law.
And one of the things that you told us off the air was you weren't that much into history growing up.
No, not at all.
So why all of a sudden did you dive in and then you found this passion and all these 6 degree of separation stories between here and so many national news stories?
Well, after high school, I went to North Hills High School. After that, I graduated. I moved to Hollywood, California, and went into the film industry, and also went to school for music. And that led me just to discovering my surroundings in Hollywood and investigating the whole town and looking at old boarded-up clubs like the Copacabana or the old Ambassador Hotel or abandoned movie theaters. And once I moved back to Pittsburgh, it just carried on over from that.
The passion continued. Well, one of the things, and Larry, we have a little bit of the audio here, which I was very surprised to see on your Facebook page, was there was a connection to this famous audio.
It bursts into flames. Get it started. It's flashing, and it's flashing. It's flashing terrible. Oh, my, get out of the way, please. It's burning, bursting into flames, and it's falling on the mooring fast, and all the folks between it. This is terrible. This is one of the worst catastrophes in the world. Oh, it's like 400 or 500 feet into the sky.
That was
a terrific crash.
Herb Morrison.
And Herb Morrison, John, was from here?
From
this
Connells,
area?
born and raised in Connellsville.
And came back to Pittsburgh later in his... This was when he was working for WLS in Chicago when the Hindenburg crashed.
Right.
But he actually came back to Pittsburgh.
That's correct. Yeah, he came back in Pittsburgh and became the very first news director of WTAE.
That's amazing. I never knew that. And that is one of the most famous clips in broadcast history, certainly with the news, because it really represented that first realization that you could have live reports, and if something was breaking news, in this case, people from around the world could find out about it. And you certainly know the history of KDKA.
Of course. The world's first radio station.
Absolutely, and we still have some of the equipment to prove it. But that's another story.
We used to, but our manager ruined all that by getting us new stuff.
A couple of famous people that you say have brushing connections to Pittsburgh. Houdini.
Correct, yeah. Houdini visited Pittsburgh 12 times, and the one time in his career where he claimed that he was the closest to death occurred here in Pittsburgh in 1908.
What happened?
He was thrown off the bridge of the Monongahela River and was trapped under the ice for over 5 minutes.
Why was it? He was trapped under the ice?
Trapped under the ice in a box, handcuffed.
That guy was crazy.
Yeah.
Didn't he die on Halloween?
Yeah, I think he did.
Punched in the stomach.
And that's what killed him.
That's what killed him.
And there's also a connection to a woman from here and Amelia Earhart.
Yeah, Helen Ritchie was her name. She was from McKeesport originally. She was a early pioneer in aviation history, but also one of the first woman pioneers in aviation. And she became good friends with Amelia Earhart, and their careers basically mirrored each other. And she broke many world records at the time, and still holds certain records today. And she ended up having a sad end of the story. In 1937, I believe, she ended up committing suicide.
Ooh.
But it's there's a mystery
that was
involved.
not long after Amelia Earhart disappeared, right?
Correct. And then what they found in her apartment in New York City, where she died, was these letters written between her and Amelia Earhart talking about mysterious things and a weird connection. They think that Amelia Earhart and her are actually connected in this death.
Are you suggesting a romantic
relationship?
relationship?
The romantic one is obvious, but the conspiracy is what's even stranger.
Wow.
And there's actually a book written about it that I found on Amazon.com. That's a local woman wrote. It's a 3-part book. Very interesting. It deals really into the story about their relationship and the connection between their deaths.
And back to the movies, the world's first theater. The world's first was on the north side.
Oh, well, Smithfield Street, downtown.
Oh, it was downtown?
Yep.
It was called the Nickelodeon.
It was one of the Nickelodeons. Yeah, it was founded by Harry Davis. And it was, now there was motion pictures before this. It's just that this place was the very first building to hold the concept of a movie theater that would strictly show nothing but movies.
Wow.
1905 is when that came out.
Now, when you're looking at stuff and you've got your Facebook page, when do you say something rises to the level of being worthy of being listed among these things we're talking about?
It could be whatever piques my curiosity that day. I regularly search old newspapers and read about say like a day like today and what happened 100 years ago in that paper today.
Right.
Just research articles, and no matter what it is, if it's interesting or odd or strange or unusual, like for instance, I posted a newspaper clipping about runaway slaves here in downtown Pittsburgh. A lot of people don't think there was slavery here, but there was up until the 1820s.
Wow.
And they would regularly publish these articles in the front page of the Pittsburgh Gazette.
What do you do for a living?
I work for a national brokerage. They're an insurance brokerage company out of Moon Township.
Wow, that's but I
you mean you'd have a real job?
I have a real job.
As involved as this is almost a full-time job.
It is.
And you have kids? You said you have kids?
I have 2 kids, yep. Anthony and Kale, and my wife Lisa at home. She's a manager at Monticello's restaurant in North Hills.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And one of the things you brought us is from the old Duquesne Gardens, and it's a little, isn't it?
Like a souvenir penny token.
Yeah, which you put through one of those machines that flattens it out.
Right.
And it has a swastika on it, but it has nothing to do with Nazi Germany.
That's right. It was a good luck symbol back in Pittsburgh in those days. In fact, people had it carved in their front lawns out of grass.
And there's still some on buildings here today, you say?
And there's one right next to Pizza Hut on McKnight Road. There's all these swastikas painted all over the building, and it's meant there. It was pre-World War II. It was meant for a sign of good luck.
John Schalcosky, founder of the Odd, Mysterious, and Fascinating History of Pittsburgh. You can go to his Facebook page and /Odd Pittsburgh. It is fascinating. You won't be able to stop reading it. We got to have you back in, John.
No, thanks.
We appreciate you coming in this morning.
Oh, I appreciate it. You having me here.
And you speaking of odd and mysterious, stick around here and you'll get a lot of additional information.
It's a good feel-good song.
CBS Local Sports pregame playlist gives fans a new perspective as favorite athletes and sports personalities reveal the music, songs, and genres that inspire them before the big game.
Just puts me in the zone, I guess.
Pregame playlist on CBSLocalsports.com.